So this is my 2017 Ducati Monster 821, and in this video I want to explain to you why I think this bike here is still relevant in 2025 and why you should consider it as your first big motorbike. So the first talking point is power and performance. This bike produces 110 brake horsepower as standard, and that might sound scary on paper, but in reality it really isn't, because it's a V-twin or an L-twin as Ducati refer to it as, and the way it kind of delivers that power is so smooth and so easy to manage. There's also switchable rider modes on this bike, so we've got urban mode, touring mode and sport mode. Now if you have it in sport or touring, you have access to the full 110 brake horsepower, and you can adjust the the traction control and the throttle map and so forth within that, and it just makes the bike feel different in both of those riding modes. But the one that I want to mention for kind of new riders would be urban mode. So if you switch it into urban, it actually mutes the bike down significantly. It changes the way the throttle feels, makes it much smoother when you open it up. It takes a lot of that lumpiness out of the engine at low RPMs, makes it much smoother, and it actually reduces the power from 110 brake horsepower to something like 74, which is much more manageable for a new rider. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of get familiar with the bike, feel how it handles, how it rides, get comfortable on it, and then you won't outgrow it when you realise that you want a little bit more power. You just have to press a few buttons. You don't have to then sell the bike and move on to a bigger motorbike. So that is one of the first selling points of this particular machine, and one of the reasons why I went for it myself, basically. A bike's weight and manoeuvrability, that's another concern that new riders tend to have with bikes. And when you actually look at this, you might think it's quite a large, heavy, muscular bike, but in reality it isn't. It actually only weighs 200 kilograms wet, so when you've got all the fluids and fuel and stuff in it, it's only 200 kilograms, which isn't a great deal of weight. I find it dead easy to lift and manoeuvre around. Yeah, it isn't a heavy bike in the slightest, in my own personal opinion. The only criticism I have with its manoeuvrability is the lock-to-lock of the steering. There isn't a huge amount of movement in the handlebars from end to end. So manoeuvring it around the driveway does take more of a 6-7 point turn rather than a 3-point turn. That's my only criticism, but that's just a design thing because the tanks are wide. When you're riding it as well, that weight, it's quite a nimble bike. It doesn't feel heavy in the slightest. It's quite easy to tip in and manoeuvre. It's easy to filter on. Yeah, it isn't a big bike. You've got this nice narrow seating position. You can get your knees nicely tucked in to grip the tank. It does feel like a very nimble, lightweight, throwable bike. So that's another benefit of the Ducati 821 and why I think it's still relevant in today's market. Whilst we're talking about that narrow seating position, being able to grip it and stuff, the comfort and ergonomics of the bike. Now I'm 6'3", and this bike might be a little bit on the small side for me. When I'm sat on it, I do make it look a bit like a Grom, but I always find it very comfortable. The normal seat, nicely padded, the seating position, these high up handlebars, everything about it ergonomically for me, where my leg position and stuff is, I never find myself feeling too cramped up on the bike. And I have been able to ride it on some extended rides, full days out, 8-9 hours on the bike without feeling like I need something bigger or more comfortable. With it being a naked, you do get a lot of wind. There's no screen on it at all. You do get a lot of wind hitting you in the chest, but that's just the nature of naked bikes. That's not a problem as per se with this particular bike. It's just the nature of having a naked motorcycle. But yeah, comfort and ergonomics, it is fantastic, and it's really good for those low speed maneuvers because you're so comfortable and sat upright, got these raised handlebars. You really can manage it properly at slow speeds as well. It doesn't feel like you're ever going to drop the bike or struggle with those low speed maneuvers. It gives you plenty of control through the handlebars and through that weight positioning of the bike. Everything about it just feels brilliant. So I really do recommend this one for new beginner riders when it comes to comfort and ergonomics as well. Now, running costs is another concern for new riders. Obviously, you're getting into biking and there's all this stuff you need to buy, and people will tell you that because of this badge, this Ducati badge, it's going to cost you a fortune to own it and run it. And I'm here to tell you the opposite. I bought with my heart, not my head. And I did think I'm getting myself into a world of pain financially with this particular bike because it costs more up front, and then you've got Ducati renowned servicing costs. But this particular model, with it being a 2017 Monster 821, this particular model, this is when the Germans got involved. This is when it got bought by the Audi group, Volkswagen Audi group. Those guys got involved and everything became much more, well, easier to manage basically. The service intervals became longer. You didn't have to worry about the Desmo servicing for so many years. The belts didn't need doing every 25 weeks or whatever the bloody hell it was on the models before that. So all the servicing costs of this bike suddenly became much more accessible and much more attainable for the average Joe and the average rider. Yes, it still does cost more to service it than the likes of Honda. I was quoted initially £180 for a service. It ended up costing me £220 because I rolled it with a Ducati, and things do cost a little bit more with those bikes. There's extra filters, little bits and bobs that need to be done with the bike that do add a little bit more to that servicing cost. But I think you'll agree that £220 for a full service at a garage isn't an exorbitant amount of money to be paying. Yes, you can do it cheaper yourself on your driveway and you'll save some money, and it's actually quite good fun tinkering on the bike yourself. But if you're the sort of person that just wants to take it somewhere, get a stamp in a book, I don't think these particular models of bike, this particular model, the Ducati 821, I don't think it's out the realms of the average Joe's possibility to be able to afford to run and maintain this particular bike. Now, we're going to talk, whilst we're talking about servicing costs, about reliability. With it being an Italian sports bike, there is this lingering reputation, should we say, that it's going to be really, really unreliable, and that might be the case with some of the older models and the older bikes that are a bit more highly strung. Whereas this particular one, I found it to be, I'm going to be really honest with you, I found it to be really, really reliable, but I will say, the day that I got it, it didn't work. So it got delivered, it started fine, left it in the garage for that afternoon. When I finished work, I went to go out on a ride, it wouldn't start. So my first experience of riding a Ducati was, oh crap, what the hell have I done? But the garage I bought it from repaired it, got it sorted, and it was all down to the fact that it had the map needed to be sorted for the exhaust that was on the bike. It was a whole thing. It wasn't necessarily the bike being unreliable. It was the previous owner modifying it and then not doing the rest of the work required to get the bike running right with this exhaust. So anyway, since that's come back, so it took me about a week to get it sorted, but when I got the bike back with the correct map on it for the exhaust system, it's been absolutely faultless. Touch wood, it stays that way. All it's needed is tyres, cleaning and a service, chain maintenance, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. So when it comes to reliability, my own personal experience, I would say, yeah, 2 thumbs up. There's nothing wrong with these bikes. It's just as reliable as my old Yamaha. Another thing that new riders might want to consider when looking at bikes is the electronic suite and those safety aids and stuff that bikes come with. And this is up there, probably one of the better ones with what it has to offer. It's got ABS, traction control, various switchable riding modes that I've already mentioned. The huge selling points for this particular bike is the fact that it does have this like safety net built into it to make you feel more confident when going out on the bike. Sure, it can look quite an intimidating machine to new riders, but honestly, it feels just as safe, just as composed, just as much fun as the bike that I learnt on, that Honda CB 650R that I had for my learner bike. This thing is absolutely fantastic, and the suite of rider aids and stuff on it is still state of the art today, many years after it was released. We all know that looks and street cred are also essential for new riders. You want your first bike to be something that people look at, talk to you about, it turns heads, and this bike is second to none in this category, I think. These L-twin engines, especially with the Termignoni carbon fibre exhaust that I've got on this thing, they just sound phenomenal. And look at the colour of it as well, bright blooming yellow. It's going to stand out in any car park. It is one of those bikes that you just don't see many around of. Most people go for the Honda CBR 650Rs, CB 650R naked version, or they go for the NT07, NT09s, that sort of stuff. Triumph speed triples, you see them absolutely everywhere, or street triples, sorry, should I say. You see them everywhere, whereas most bike meets you go to, you very rarely see a Monster 821. It is the kind of bike that is going to grab attention, it is going to turn heads, and it is going to get you a little bit of street cred because it is a Ducati. So you are kind of buying a bit more of a premium brand, should I say. Not that it's a better bike, all those other bikes I've named are fantastic machines as well, and they're all just as much fun, and that's one thing you'll learn about motorcycling. Doesn't matter what you're riding, they're all brilliantly good fun in their own right, But there's just something a bit more special about owning a Ducati and having that brand. And when you open the garage, seeing this bright yellow or red Ducati sat in the garage, yeah, it's just a little bit special. Another reason why I think the 821 is a standout bike today in 2025, despite it being its age, it's its versatility. This bike can do loads. You can go on massive blasts out with your friends, fast riding, country lanes, really enjoying yourself, getting to know the bike. It can do commuting. You can potter around on it, switch it into urban mode, do all that commuting around, get yourself to work and back, carve through traffic, do some filtering, and it will fit through those environments. And it also takes things like saddlebags and stuff as well, so you can actually do long weekends and touring. If you get the right kit for it, you can get saddlebags and a whole setup for the back of it to be able to allow you to take this bike on long weekends, go and visit family and friends, or go away, get camping, go on an adventure and stuff on it. It is such a versatile machine. The only thing, and I've mentioned this at the top, the only thing that I criticise it for is that lack of wind protection. And that is not because the bike's at fault, that's because it is just, by its nature, a naked bike. So there are some little, like, what do you call them, compromises to be made with it, but if you wanted it to do touring, it definitely could. The next point is a financial one, resale value. So what I've noticed with these particular bikes and the ones I was looking at initially as well, so you like from Yamaha and Honda and stuff, the resale value of the Ducati is going to stay strong because you have bought that premium brand. It does hold its money better than the likes of Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki. I don't know the logic behind it. I don't know why. It might be a numbers thing. There's more Suzukis, more Hondas and more Yamahas out there than there are Ducatis. But as a result of that, this particular bike has kept me in the black the entire time that I've had it. At no point have I felt like the finance that I've got on this bike outweighs the value of it. So I'm very comfortable, I'm very happy that I've been able to get this bike and keep myself in a position where it's not lost a significant amount of money despite covering 3,000, maybe 4,000 miles in the couple of years that I've owned it. And finally, the last point, I think it kind of summarises all the points I've made. This particular bike is a really good balance between being beginner friendly and having that thrill factor. And it's really important you have that balance because you want to learn to ride the bike. You will start learning to ride motorcycles more once you've passed your test and you're out on the road without that instructor in your ear. So when you find yourself in that position, the bike has got to offer you the thrill of the ride whilst also being beginner friendly and being something safe to learn on. And this bike is the absolute perfect balance for that because it's not so powerful it's going to terrify you, but at the same time it will allow you to grow into it and learn those skills, get better at things like your counter steering, your emergency stops, your bike control, getting it leant over and building that confidence as you grow into the machine. So this particular bike, like I say, I think it is a superb option for a beginner rider and people looking to just get into motorcycling. And it's still, like I say, in this day and age, despite there being all this plethora of new motorcycles out there on ridiculously low finance rates, I still think that you'd do yourself a disservice not considering the Ducati Monster 821 as your first big motorcycle. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I've convinced you to go out and find yourself a Ducati Monster 821 and, you know, buy with your heart, not your head. If you've liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Come along with me as I grow this channel. And don't forget to find me on Instagram as well, where I'll post nice pictures of the bike quite regularly and stuff as well. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I get to see you in the next one.